Thanks for staying with us. Let's check in on the situation in Ghana now, where cases have surpassed the 3,000 mark. Daniel Dadzie from Joy News TV joins us from Accra. Daniel, thanks for joining us on the program.
Thanks for having me.
So is it safe to say the rise in number of cases is from the police department?
It'll be very difficult to zero in on the police department because in the first place, we don't know which exact tests brought these results that we are seeing now with 3,091 new cases reported. We have spoken repeatedly to officials from Noguchi Memorial Institute of Medical Research, which is the lead testing center in Ghana, and they tell us that when they are carrying out the tests, what they know are the patients specifically, but they hardly categorize them according to where they came from. For instance, if they fell in mandatory quarantine or if they came as a result of routine surveillance or enhanced surveillance. I think the Ghana Health Service has not told us which category these new cases fall in. However, we know that 10,000 tests were ordered by the head of the police here in Ghana, who we call the IGP, Inspector General, James Opombwenu. On the 22nd of April, he ordered that 10,000 tests are carried out. I heard you say earlier very correctly that some 33,000 police personnel were deployed during the partial lockdown announced by the president last month, and talking about how these persons were actually contributing to ensuring that people were keeping to the lockdown rules. That means that these people were at risk. It is possible that the majority of new infections which have been recorded are this enhanced testing among the police, but we can't say that for sure.
All right, Daniel, could this also be as a result of the pool testing the country is currently implementing? And how is that going, by the way?
Now, the pool testing is a system that a number of samples are put together and are tested as one sample. That's the rudimentary explanation that we've been given by the experts. And this pooled testing has enabled Ghana to test more cases than we normally would have been able to. So initially, the capacity of our lead testing center, Noguchi, was 1,000 samples a day. However, because they are literally testing 10 samples as one, they are able to surpass that capacity in leaps and bounds. And so we've been able to test more cases, yes. Whether or not the pooled testing per se is seeing more positive cases would be difficult, because actually international protocols dictate that if you are going to apply pooled testing, you apply pooled testing when you have a low positivity rate. At the moment, our national positivity rate is 2.01%, which is the number of persons who are testing positive as opposed to the number of tests you are carrying out generally. There are some categories in our tests protocol that are seen higher than this 2.01%. For instance, those who were tested under mandatory quarantine, I'm talking about people who traveled, came into the country, were placed in quarantine and then tested, so 11% of them testing positive. However, generally, we are seeing 2.01% being our positivity rate. And so the pooled testing is actually being applied because we don't have so many cases. I can't say for sure that it is because of pooled testing that we are seeing more cases. We are testing more generally, which would definitely mean a rise in number of cases that are being identified.
Daniel, just very quickly before I let you go, the country has also begun loosening lockdown restrictions. But now that the number of cases is rising, is there any chance the government is considering restoring those restrictions?
In the sixth update to the nation, when President Akufo-Addo announced the lifting of the partial lockdown in the Greater Accra region and the Ashanti region, which is the capital and the second largest city generally, he mentioned that if we are to see a rise in number of cases in a specific area, the lockdown rules will be reapplied for that specific area. And this is a question that in most of our discussions, we have engaged government on the specific meaning of it. And it seems like that is the position of government, that they are willing to reapply the lockdown rules when it's when a spike in cases is seen specifically. So even because of that, we are seeing that for the number of positive cases being announced nationally, we are seeing a regional breakdown and a district breakdown. That is what will determine whether or not a partial lockdown will be announced once again.
All right, then Joy News TV correspondent Daniel Dadzier, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you.